I'm Allie. Join me as I show you how to do these Casual Glam Earrings. They feature a Chaton along with a half Tila bead in a super easy netted bezel. If you need any supplies, go ahead and look below the video. In the description, there's a link there to get back to our website. You can check out all the supplies for this video or check out additional colors that you could make them in. Gather up all your materials and let's get started. To create this Casual Glam earring, said so because it's kind of like muted tones and then it's got this bright crystal pop in the middle. The crystal we're going to be using is a Chaton. This is an SS45, which is about a 10 millimeter. You can do the same thing with the Rivoli if you want to as well. The Chaton is going to be shaped a little bit differently than the Rivoli because it has this big setting and that big interior. We're using half Tila beads here to go in and create a very simple, fast netting for that Chaton to sit inside of. I also have 11/0 seed beads and 15/0 seed beads to use. I'm using a size 6 of white dragon thread, and I have on here a size 11 needle. This is a very simple way to bezel. You could even make a couple of these drop down if you wanted your glam to be a little bit more than your casual. But to begin, I'm going to start by picking up 7 of our half Tila beads along with an 11/0 in between. So I'm going to pick up 7 beads. There's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And these earrings are very fast. You'll want to make sure that you add an 11/0 seed bead after the last Tila because we want that pattern to continue. This is going to be the back of the design. And what I'm doing is simply tying these 14 beads, 7 of my Tilas, 7 of my 11/0s, into a loop. Making sure not any of your beads are stuck in that loop here. And knot it over it. Give a nice tight pull, tightening it up. That's again the back of our bezel. We'll go through one more time also and just tighten that up as well. So we ended here with the 11/0 seed bead. I'm going to go back through my 11 and my Tilas away from the seed bead. Once you get about halfway around, I want you to step up on your Tilas. What that means is we're going to go from the interior hole to the exterior hole in order to put on more beads. Going from that interior hole to the exterior hole of the same bead, we'll put a little bit of thread on the side. If you have it handy, green thread would work great for this project as well. We're going to do a second layer of our half Tilas, and those are going to have an 11/0 seed bead before and after. And then we're going to sew through the next Tila bead. So we're doing a second row of our Tila beads. That second row of Tila beads just gets a 15, Tila, 15. Now the Tila beads, half Tila beads, they do have a side. They have one side that's a little bit flatter and more that's a little bit rounded. For this purpose and this pattern, I'm not worrying about that at all. If you are picky and want to make sure that your half Tila beads are facing the same direction, because it's going to drive you crazy, you're more than welcome to do so. Going around here then, as you add in your next layer of Tila beads, I'm coming all the way around. And then we're going to do, once again, another step up. You can see on the sample here that those Tila beads that are on the top here, that second hole, what we're going to do is add an 11/0 seed bead between them. And that's going to bring them in to create that bezel. So I finish off here with my last half Tila with the 15s on each side. And I'm sewing through that first 11/0 seed bead as well as that first Tila bead through the interior or the first hole. From here, we're going to do another step up. And as we step up from the interior hole to the exterior hole of that second row of Tila beads, you can see we have that nice little setting for our 10 millimeter Chaton to sit in. And we're going to bring the Tilas, those half Tilas, up and put on some beads in between. The first beads that we're going to put on in between are 3 of my 15/0 seed beads. And then we're going to sew through the next Tila bead. 3 15/0 seed beads through the next half Tila. If you do want to try this with a bigger one, it would be amazing for us to see in our Facebook group for beading and jewelry making. You can use a 18 millimeter, say, Rivoli, and switch it out from half Tilas to Tilas, share what it looks like, or just make it bigger with more of your Tila beads and share that as well. So you can see I'm going the whole way around, adding in my 3 beads in between each of that second hole of Tila's. And as I do so, I'm going to get ready to start putting my Chaton in because my bezel is getting tighter and tighter. After we do the 3 15s here and add this in, we're circling around to that first half Tila. I'm going to sew through the first 3 15 OC beads that I added on. Give a nice tight pull, and you can see that that pulls it in even tighter there. From here, we want it to go even tighter. So we're going to take an 11 OC bead, skip over the 3 15 O's, and sew through, pushing the 11 O's towards the interior of the piece. That's going to bring that a little bit tighter and create almost a prong style to hold our Chaton in place. So my next 11 O goes on. I kind of push it towards the interior. See how I'm kind of pushing towards the interior. I push down with my thumb as well on my Chaton so it pokes out the back there. And then we continue on. You're going to do this in between each one of these 7 half Tila beads. If it goes towards the exterior, you want to push it and make sure it goes towards the interior. Because notice how that's pulling that even tighter and making sure that your beads are not going to fall out. Pushing around, you're going to push it in towards the interior. And we are going to go around, after you're done doing this, we're going to go around these beads one more time. So we're going to go from our Tila beads and our 11 O's and circle around. The reason we're doing that, and like any good bezel should be, you want to make sure that you don't lose your crystal, your cabochon, your gemstone, whatever's in the middle there. So in order to not lose them and to make sure that they're secured, another pass of thread offers up an opportunity to tighten up the design and just to make sure that it is pulled nice and towards the center, kind of added extra layer of protection so that stone does not pop out. From here again, after we go through, you usually kind of have to wiggle your needle, pulling it out after each 11O. We're going to take a trip all the way around to make it tight towards that interior. Now that I have it tightened around, I'm coming out of one of the first holes or the interior hole of my half Tila. I'm going to step back into the second or the backmost hole of that same half Tila bead, as well as out the 15 OC bead. Making sure when you do so and you pull your thread that it sits right along that Tila so you don't see it at all. When we're coming out of the Tila bead here that sits directly, or the 15O that sits directly above that copper bead, we're going to add a 15 copper, 15. Now, do you need to do this? No, it'll sit like it is. You're going to skip over that Tila, and you see I kind of pull my needle to the side, give a little shake. You're going to sew through the next 15 Tila 15. So you're skipping over one Tila bead and allowing these to sit right on top. Coming out here, it's almost like a peyote style. 15, 11, 15. Skip over that next Tila and sew in to the next 11 Tila 11. The Tila you're skipping over does sit towards the back. And again, if I look at it, that 11O that sits towards the front of the Chaton is going to mirror the 11O that sits on the side. Skip over the Tila, sew through 15 Tila 15, and continue on. I'm going to do this 4 more times, adding in the little seed beads around the outer edge to get that nice little kind of star pop. When you're finishing up adding in the last of your seed beads, it's going to be time to put on your wire guard or wire protector. I want you to come up into, after coming out the 15O, come up into the 15O there, as well as the 11O. We're going to add a 15, pick up our wire guard. Windows are open, that's what that noise was. Come down the opposite side here. Add your 15. And I hope when you're watching this, you have a beautiful day like I'm having. You're going to go back through the 11-0 after adding your 15 that your thread was originally coming out of. What this does is makes it almost look like an X right there above, but it sits your wire guard perfectly on top of your beads here. From here, we're going to reinforce going through the wire guard, up the 15 that sits right after the 11, up through the wire guard, down through the wire guard and the 15 on the opposite side, making sure that you don't have any thread that's kind of escaping from that wire guard there. And then after you're out of that 15, back through the 11 to equal it out so it's not pulled to one side incorrectly. Flip your project over, go through the 15 after the 11 that's closest to the Tila, down through the Tila bead that's next and the 15 before it. And what we're going to do is kind of wiggle your thread and needle to get back right to that starter thread. Once you're back at that starter thread, all you're going to do is tie those two thread ends together, grab your thread burner or thread zap, and zap it off. Pick up your ear wire, open up your pliers, pull it to the side, close it up, and there you have it. That beautiful casual glam earring. Thanks so much for joining me in creating these casual glam earrings. They are an understatement of glamour. If you want to make them even bigger, go ahead and add multiples together, stitch them together, and post your photos for that in our Facebook group for beading and jewelry making. We would love to see it. If you haven't yet, also check out below the video in the description. There's a link there to get back to our site where you can see all the different color options that you have and the full material list. Stay tuned also for more inspirational designs, and you don't want to miss those by subscribing to us here on YouTube. Thanks so much for watching, and see you next time.